Welcome to the party. I'm not here right now, but I want you to listen very carefully. These guys are very funny, so pay attention. Enough talk. It's showtime.
Hello and welcome to Bags of Action. My name's Steve, my co-host is Pete.
Hello. For
this December episode, we are talking about the 2016 film Deadpool starring Ryan Reynolds.
This is true.
This is one of my choices. I've seen this about 3 or 4 times now, and it's a superhero film, but really not your typical superhero film at all, I would say.
Yeah, because we haven't really... I don't think we've done a superhero film before at all.
No.
But yeah, I've seen it twice now. I saw it in the cinema, and then I rewatched it for this show, and realised how many jokes I missed in the cinema from laughing at the jokes that preceded them.
Yes.
And I'm sure if you've watched it that many times, there'll be other things that I've missed that you will have noticed too.
Undoubtedly. There are just so many packed in there from the moment it begins. It's obscene. So, shall we just get into it?
Yeah, let's do that.
So this is the story of Wade Wilson, who's a mercenary who gets a fatal form of cancer, and it's in his sort of heart, lungs, spleen, and his brain or something. So really he's on limited borrowed time, and he's offered an alternative, which he accepts because he's told it's a cure.
It is. And what I think about this film, having watched it again, is actually the plot is very straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
However, the way it's presented makes it... Because I'd forgotten loads of the kind of structural stuff.
Yeah.
Because it jumps around in time quite a lot. It's, if anyone knows... I hope you've seen this film already if you're listening. But if you've read the comics as well, it's obviously very meta and breaks the fourth wall and stuff. But what I really liked is, even in the title sequence, there's a Green Lantern joke.
And a Rob Liefeld joke.
Yep. And a Ryan Reynolds joke.
Yes.
And it's like, this couldn't be anything other than the Deadpool movie, which... Yeah. And I haven't read that much of the comics, and I've always been a bit, I don't know about the meta and the fourth wall stuff, but now having seen it on the big screen, I've come round to it massively.
I like it in the film and in some TV shows. I don't like it in my comics. So,
okay.
Like you, I've not read much Deadpool at all, and even after seeing this film and liking it, slight spoiler there, but there you go.
You liked it?
Yeah, I'm not going to go back and start reading the comics. It's just something that's doesn't appeal to me. But yes, this film is packed full of jokes and digs at himself and at Green Lantern and
at the superhero movie formula.
Yes.
At the X-Men universe, despite being set in it. At Hugh Jackman, it's yeah.
Yes, there's a lot. Everybody gets on well with Hugh Jackman, obviously, and yes. We know that. So this is actually Ryan Reynolds' second outing as Deadpool.
This is true, but the only one worth watching.
Yes, because he appeared in was it the second Wolverine film or the first?
No, the first one.
Was that just called The Wolverine?
No, that was the second one. The first one was called Wolverine Origins.
Okay.
And the second one was called The Wolverine. And the second one was, I think the writer and director are the same people who went on to do Logan.
Yes.
But the first was not the same. No.
Yeah, so he appeared briefly as Ryan Reynolds plays as Wade Wilson, as Deadpool, and it was not the real version that he wanted it to be, and it wasn't the most true to the heart of the character, I would say.
Yeah, and this definitely is. And, without beating around the bush, Ryan Reynolds was born to play this role. I think it's the best he's ever been in anything.
Yeah, Yeah.
You know, it is the exact opposite of Green Lantern.
Absolutely, yes. He makes a joke about when he's designing his suit, he doesn't anything except green, not CGI.
Yeah.
There are just so many things in there. Like Ryan Reynolds didn't get this far in his acting talent when he's got a scarred face and all this sort of stuff. So he's just, or how did he get this film financed to get to someone with smooth criminal, as he said. There we go, the Hugh Jackman joke and stuff.
Yeah, the ongoing kind of which one of them is the world's sexiest man, which runs through the whole film.
Yes,
pretty much. But I think, you know, we're focusing on the humour because this film is full of lols, as they say these days.
Do they?
But I don't know. They do now.
Okay.
They do now.
All right.
But within this very, very funny film, there's also a ridiculous amount of very, very good action sequences.
Yeah.
Almost like John Woo on acid.
I think so. I mean, the credits with the funny comments start with a kind of freeze frame of an action scene that you're not really sure what's going on at first until it comes back to it later on.
Yeah, it's like a bullet time, almost kinetic slow-mo fight with jokes in it. It's it's almost like it's made for this show.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, the whole film is just layers. There's layers and layers, and you see more as it goes on. So
and the other thing, because it's meta, it kind of the jokes are kind of always catching up with you, or you're catching up with it, because like they turn up at the Xavier School, which is when you suddenly go, okay, this is, because I don't know about you, but watching it, I wasn't sure if it was going to be standalone completely or if it would weave in more of the X universe. So it's Xavier's School, and the only two people there are Colossus and I forgot,
Negasonic Teenage Warhead.
Yep. And you straight away think, oh god, oh no, they've done that thing where it's kind of a spin-off film and there's going to be just two characters.
Yeah.
And then of course they reference that fact throughout pretty much, but you do get the Blackbird. But yeah, it isn't afraid to poke fun at the film itself.
Yeah, he said the studio couldn't afford more than two X-Men, eh? And he's there peering in the door looking for more of them, knowing blatantly there isn't one there. So it's just there's so many things like that. And I love his interactions with the two X-Men. The fact that Colossus is trying to get him to be a better man, whereas Negasonic Teenage Warhead is just a typical surly teenager. And he's just like, so what am I going to get? Sullen silence or sarcastic comment? Which is it? Which is it? Come on, come on. And she goes, you got me in a trap. Yes, yes. And then later on she's tweeting and he's like, no, you finished your tweet. Don't worry about us. You're fighting. No, you carry on. Yep, good.
Yeah,
okay.
Exactly. Yeah, I think he's like, those 140 characters are more important than the 140 characters that are about to kill us.
Yeah. But yes, she's amusing. And with Colossus, who's completely made of metal. To the point where Ryan Reynolds, as Deadpool, puts his hand out behind and accidentally touches Colossus's crotch, and he says, "Dad?" Which is just bizarre. And then later on he says, "Your poor wife," when he realises he has a metal penis as well.
That's true.
God. Anyway, vaguely go towards trying to describe the story. Wade Wilson is this mercenary. He used to be a soldier. Now he does odd jobs and revenge jobs, but he frequents this bar called Sister Margaret's, which is a sort of place where the mercenaries can hang out with each other and have a drink after jobs and relax. And
I think one of my favourite scenes is actually when you first sort of see him as a merc.
Yeah.
Because they're kind of showing, there's a big action set piece at the start, and then he's kind of flashing back to how he became Deadpool.
Yeah.
And he was exactly what I loved about it. He's exactly the same. His attitude isn't something new.
No.
Really. He's probably taken it a bit further because he's ill and it's like gallows humor, but he is already kind of like that. But the scene with the pizza when you kind of you think that he's going after the guy who's receiving the pizza, but the mark is actually the the pizza delivery guy, and he is taking these kind of very, very low end mercenary jobs.
Yeah, and he threatens both of them, and then just pins the pizza delivery guy to the wall, and says, "You've got to stop stalking so and so, or else." And it becomes very dangerous at that moment, and you believe that he's going to do something quite nasty to the guy if he doesn't. But then straight away it goes back into humour, where he goes into the bar, gets a drink with a very provocative name, and has it delivered from one massive burly mercenary to the other, hoping to start a fight because they have a pool on the wall.
Yes,
about who will die first.
What could they call that? It would have been so much funnier if they'd called it something else.
Yeah.
But yes, the Deadpool, betting on which years ago I worked in a pensions company, and we used to have that for celebrities. I probably shouldn't say that. But there we are.
Yes, so they have this Deadpool of which mercenary will end up dead first, and they've got various odds, and they all put money on it. So he tries to win the pool by having the other one kill the other one in the bar, but they don't. He checks it with a mirror and goes, "No, he's still alive. No."
Yeah. And the barman, I can't remember the name of the character. You might.
I'll think of it in a minute.
But it's played by T.J. Miller. However, when I saw it in the cinema, until the last about 20 minutes, I thought Ryan Reynolds was playing both parts.
Weasel, that's his character.
Yeah, I thought that was also Ryan Reynolds with a prosthetic and a wig and false teeth.
I see.
And I thought, and then I realised that I was completely wrong. But there's a great moment here. He meets Vanessa, played by Morena Baccarin from Firefly, of course.
Yes.
And other things. Who's very much his equal. They both square off against Fat Gandalf.
That's brilliant. That's absolutely brilliant. I love that.
But I love this whole sequence. It's almost like the Lethal Weapon 3, kind of Rennie Russo, Mel Gibson, kind of who's got the most injuries. Yes. It's a bit like the Monty Python. You think you had it hard, but...
Yeah, 12 of us rolled up in a paper bag, sleeping in the bottom hill. Paper bag? You're lucky. We just had to sleep under a pile of grass. Grass? We just had concrete. Living on... So that's like the kind of... each other to see who had the worst childhood. And it goes to some pretty dark places. But
it really does.
Both done in humour still.
But it also, I think, establishes a relationship ridiculously quickly on the screen. It's a bit like I always cite True Romance as the most believable relationship that's shown in about 5 minutes. But then they do this really clever thing where they go through their whole relationship with edits, mainly between sex scenes.
Yes.
But they just keep wishing each other the different
months and seasons,
holidays and anniversaries, and and then his illness happens. It all happens in a space of about 6 minutes, it feels like.
Yeah.
But you do believe it. You do believe that they're together. You do believe they're each other's equal, and because I think you have to have that. Because although this is an action movie and a action comedy, with it very much an action comedy, it still has a heart, and there is still this kind of, it's a love story. As he says at the start, this is a love story.
Yeah, it is. And then it gets to a point later on where there's people getting blown up and shot, and he pauses and he says, "Hey, I bet your girlfriend's wondering, you said this was a love story. It's not a love story." He goes, "It is. Wait, just wait." And that guy just got turned into shish kebab. I thought he said it was a love story. So he's even acknowledging that he can see that some part of the audience has probably gone with their girlfriend and told him it's a love story.
They did
acknowledging that.
I think they did a version of the trailer that was all about them as a couple.
Yes.
For that very reason. I think then at the end he's like, "You just tell her it's a rom-com, it'll be fine."
Yeah. It's just nods and things like that. It's a self-awareness of the fact that it thinks some people might say that and not be sure, and yet they got them to go and see the film, and then saying, "Oh, thanks for coming to see the film. It is a love story. It is. Just wait.
Yeah, I mean, the marketing campaign for this was a genius thing in itself. I think if you're going to do something this risky and bold, you've got to own it. You can't do half measures, and this film doesn't really pull any punches at all.
Oh, no. It certainly does not. It is very, very, very in your face on every level, I would say. I think that's fair.
I think that's fair too.
So then we get this. This thing is packed full of film references. That's the other thing. Music plays a very important part because the film begins with Angel in the Morning during kind of bullet time thing, and then there's Calendar Girl whilst they're going through the different sex scenes at different times of the year. But then they reference a whole bunch of stuff. Like he's talking to her and he says, "It's like I made you in a lab."
Which is I thought weird science, yeah.
And then he says something about Star Wars, and she goes Empire, and he's like, "Oh,
I love you."
And then he talks about Taken as well, and he goes, "You know, there are three of those films. At some point, you've got to just think, is he a really bad father?" So they just even make fun of Liam Neeson and stuff.
And I think there's one bit, there's like a montage. But they've deliberately done it with like a shitty, like it almost feels like an old Turtles movie theme, but like the first Turtles movie theme where they're singing about. I can't remember they had the Deadpool. I think it's when he before he refines his name, then they do a whole song based on the name he didn't quite choose.
Right.
It's just little touches like that. That again, if you've seen enough B movies, it just feels very true. And it is kind of on the nose, but in a good way. Whereas most things that are on the nose, I think, are in a bad way.
Yeah.
And we haven't even got to the blind lady he lives with yet.
I'm trying to remember her name now. Is it... what's her name? Oh, it'll come to me. But he meets Blind Al. That's her name.
Yeah.
Blind Al. Obviously, of course. He meets her when he's in the laundromat trying to get blood out of his white suit when he's hunting down people. And then she tells him what to use to get blood out of it. And in the end, he just makes a red suit because it's a lot easier. But it makes sense because everybody designs their suits in weird ways that look ridiculous. But his is mostly functional because he wants to obscure his face and yet not, if it gets blood all over it, it doesn't show up. Which I think is a good idea.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So yes, he has this flying romance with Raina Bakin's character, and then he's diagnosed with Vanessa, and then he's diagnosed with this incurable, lethal cancer, and she's already planning how to fight it and what to do, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. I've seen it. It's gone awful. It's not going to happen. And then he's approached by a dodgy kind of Agent Smith lookalike.
And he calls him Agent Smith.
Yeah. Yeah, and he goes, "Oh, should you be here because there's a school about 100 meters away, and I'm probably your restraining order won't let you near to be that close to them. Maybe you should stand back a bit." So he's just, and this guy's potentially offering him to save him, and even then he doesn't care. He's just making fun of him. So as you say, he hasn't changed and become this annoying talker.
No,
he's a talker all the way through.
And I think because of the way it is framed, to say that this kind of big fight sequence on the bridge and he's only got 12 bullets left and he's looking for this guy Francis, and then you jump back. If you jump back and he'd been kind of a massive contrast, like a supply teacher type, it wouldn't. I don't think it would have held up at all. I think there's the fact that it's like, no, I'm an arse. I'm just an arse that's been through a lot of stuff.
It's true.
But I'm an arse.
He is. He is a gobby arse that will just not shut up. Really. He really won't, will he?
But again, though, that's kind of what all of the good action movie heroes from back in the day were like anyway, to a certain extent. And that's one of the things I liked about this film is that I think the modern action movies, you don't necessarily get those one-liners. Here you get the one-liner, but it's a one-liner that knows it's a one-liner wrapped inside another one-liner.
Or he breaks the fourth wall, then he breaks the fourth wall on the inside fourth wall. He goes, is that like a ninth wall thing? It's just insane. It's just all these constant things. There's other film jokes in there. Like he talks about the X-Men films and says, McAvoy or Stewart, who's the best? And that bit where he cuts off his own hand, he goes, did you see 127 hours? Oh, if you didn't, look away now. So it's just constant stuff barrage.
But I think it massively knows its audience, which is a very kind of pop culture literate crowd. Yeah, I was chatting to someone today just about film in general, and he went, "Do you know what the best film I've seen in the last 10 years was? Deadpool.
Wow.
It was great." And I was like, oh, okay. So, yeah, I think I've never heard anyone say anything bad about this film, I don't think.
No.
I think you either didn't want to see it or you did want to see it. And if you did see it, I went into it with a little bit of, I think it feels like a joke that's going to be stretched too far.
Yeah.
And then I think within 10 minutes of watching it in the cinema, I was just grinning. I think I grinned probably from the start to the end. You've known me long enough to know that just grinning at all is quite an achievement. But to do that for 90 minutes.
Yeah, I didn't go and see this at the cinema because I was not interested in it. I was like, no, I don't like the character. I don't like the comics. It's going to annoy me.
We need a new feature called Cynical Steve.
Yep. I just thought it's just going to annoy me, and I don't it's a one trick joke in the comics. It's a one joke character. I just don't like it, and I didn't see it. And then my friend said, "You just watch it. Just trust me." I was like, "No." He said, "Look, shut up. Watch it." All right. And I laughed non-stop the first time I saw it. I did miss a load of jokes of that first time.
Any film that makes a joke about how Limp Bizkit fucked music over in the 90s deserves all the credit.
I think so. So he goes for this miracle cure, and he's then found out that it's not a miracle cure. Well, it isn't as much as they're going to cure him of his cancer, but to do that, they're going to torture him in an attempt to activate his X gene.
And another thing I really like, the sequence of the torture is actually quite long, considering the film moves at such a pace. They linger on this, but I think it's quite cleverly done because at the start it's like Francis, the running joke of like, where's Francis? And he's like, okay, well, this, he obviously doesn't like this guy called Francis. But then this sequence plays out and you're like, yeah, okay, I don't like him either. Can we just kill him? And then you're rooting for him. You were rooting for him anyway, but I think this guy's a real sadist. He's not a nice man.
No, he's an English villain, and he introduces himself as Ajax, and straight away Wade's like, that's not your real name. And he goes, is it Simon? Is it Keith? And he goes, is it Basil Fawlty? Which made me laugh. And then he works out what it is because he stole a tag off the driver.
From his laundry, yeah.
And he pulls that other guy into the joke and kind of says, you'll never believe what his real name is. It's Francis. And he's just like, God, you're a talker. Do you ever shut up? No. And he doesn't. He just never, ever shuts up. And we get to meet his gal pal.
You do, Angel Dust.
Played by Gina Carano.
Indeed.
She was
larger
than I remembered in this film.
Yes, I agree. I wouldn't mess with her.
Ever? Or in this film?
No, certainly not in this film.
No.
But I guess her fights with Colossus have to be believable. Where he just puts on CGI metal, she just worked out for a very long time.
A lot. She was very, very big and quite scary. And Ajax basically explains that they went through the same process. He's got his nerves burned, so he can't feel anything. And
that's right.
Angel is now incredibly strong and tough and invulnerable almost. So they torture him, they drown him, they electrocute him, and none of it seems to work. Nothing's happening. So then
they are trying to bring out his mutation, aren't they? So as well as they say they're going to make him a superhero, which you assumed was by adding something to him, but this is just to push his system. I think get his stress levels so high that his latent mutation kicks in.
Yeah.
Which is, I think, part of the whole, become an X-Man because you are a mutant. But he's kind of fighting that.
Yeah, and he then realizes, eventually sort of says, oh, you're not going to be a super soldier. Haven't you worked that out yet? You're going to be a super slave. We're going to activate you these powers, and then we're going to sell you to the highest bidder, and you'll get to kill all sorts of people because we tell you to. And at that point, you see him crack for the first time. He just sort of says, what is wrong with you? But it doesn't. He doesn't kind of go, oh well, as you say, it's just he is that evil. He's just evil and doesn't care. And so they torture him in this kind of oxygen tube thing.
It's very brutal. But again, as I say, really, really well. Yeah, and then they essentially they cure his cancer. The mutation does kick in, but then he loses all the skin on his face.
Well, it's accelerated the cancer so that it's cured of his body, but his entire skin system, all of his skin as a sort of an organ, is completely ruined by the cancer. So it keeps it in check inside and heals him, but his skin will never be cured. And so he just looks like he's been... Well, it looks terrible. As his friend said, you look like an avocado fucked another avocado, and he's the result. But it was, ugly, awful sex. That's what he says. And there's a whole bunch of jokes.
There's jokes at his expense. Yeah. They all.
Yes, there's lots of different versions of that joke about what his friend says to him about why he looks so hideous.
And I don't know. Yeah, he does. And I don't know if they ad-libbed those lines, but
I think
they're
so.
very,
I think
very,
TJ Miller did.
Very funny. And he kind of, but I guess it's part of the male to male kind of, let's make a joke out of a crisis, but it's also been set up as that's what he's like with everybody else. So he wouldn't want to be any different. He would be as bad if it was someone else in that situation.
Yeah. And then his friend's trying to convince him that looks don't matter. And he goes, really? Really? Do you think Ryan Reynolds got this far in his acting talent? So, even then, it's kind of tense moment or an emotional moment, he's still making fun of himself, essentially.
This is true. And he does kind of, he sets the lab on fire, doesn't he, to try and escape? And
he blows up the oxygen tube that he was in, and obviously that spreads the fire. And he then tries to battle Francis, but loses because Francis burns down the entire lab with him in it, believing he's killed him.
Yes.
However, he has not.
And then he starts acting a bit like Darkman, but they don't mention Darkman. I was disappointed. Although you mentioned Liam Neeson before, so, you know, it was kind of his Liam Neeson phase where he's walking around with the hood on and watching from the shadows.
Yeah. But his friend does describe his looks as haunting, which I think is quite accurate. It's not a good look, let's be honest.
It's not a good look. And he basically then just starts looking for Francis, doesn't he? That's what he's doing. He's going round, again, to the shitty theme song. He gets the idea for the name.
Yeah, from the bar.
Because his friend has gone, because he can't be, because he's pretty much invulnerable. He's like, I'm never going to win the Deadpool now, because he had him, didn't he? He had Wade. So he's like, Deadpool, and then,
and he goes, Captain Deadpool. And they go,
that's it. The theme song is about Captain Deadpool.
Yeah, and they go, Captain, and then they both look at each other and goes, no, just Deadpool. Yeah. Okay, just Deadpool. Yeah, Captain Deadpool.
And then he finds Agent Smith.
Yes. But even this bit, it's funny because he sort of says, he looks at the camera and says, you won't want to look at this bit, and moves the camera away physically, and then you just hear the noises of what he's doing to Agent Smith. That all sound quite unpleasant in order to get the information on where to find Francis.
This is true.
Is that? I'm trying to think what happens next.
They jump back to the bridge, so you get more of a context of what happened, because the reason he's looking for Francis, he had actually caught him. So the bit that we're seeing is him up to the point of catching him. But he did catch him, and Colossus kind of let him get away, really.
Yeah, he goes... Well, he's about to kill Francis. He's nailed him to the edge of the bridge with a sword, I believe.
Yes, he has, yes.
After killing a whole bunch of people. But Colossus gets in the way, and Negasonic Teenage Warhead is there, not really doing a lot. Just kind of lurking. At this point, she does more later on, but at this point I think she's just kind of stood around. And Francis gets away, unfortunately.
Yes. And we haven't mentioned the taxi driver.
Yes, Dopinder.
Because the first time you see him is when going to the bridge, isn't it? And he's left his guns behind, which is why he has to use the sword. But he's giving him relationship advice.
Yes, another love story, you see, of true love, that he loves this woman, but she doesn't seem to love him. She prefers someone else. And he's saying, well, you've got to try and prove to this woman and embrace this and do this, that, and the other. And the next time we see him, we find out, he said, she still wasn't into me, so I did something to him. What did you do? Oh, he's in the boot. And Colossus isn't happy at the idea.
No, not at all. And he's like, and he's like, it's terrible. And he looks to Pinder and to Cameron, like, well done, I'm proud of you.
He goes, you mustn't do that. That's a terrible thing. Kill him. I don't want you to do anything. That's not what I was talking about. Bury him in a bog. It's just giving this split advice to what he thinks he should say and what he's actually telling him to do. But yes, you said Dopinder has quite an active role in the film, I would say.
He does. He does.
They call for him for the final battle as well.
They do, and he still leaves his guns behind.
Yeah. Yeah. Never mind. But
and you get. I didn't think I'd ever see Stan Lee in a strip club.
No, Stan Lee is in fact the DJ announcer in the strip club, and he says now coming up chastity or something. I mean, they even mention at one point, he says, oh, this film is this, that, and the other, and it's a blatant cameo. So, he's acknowledging it earlier on that it's going to be Stan. Oh, man. Stan Lee.
Indeed.
Excelsior.
So,
the stripper wasn't called that, to be honest.
That is true. It's, I mean, at least he avoided any kind of Kirby jokes or...
yes.
Anything like that. I don't think I don't think Stan would have signed up for that.
No.
But they get this far into the film and they're still kind of adding characters. So they say that the blind lady he's hired her as well as being his housemate.
Yes.
She makes him IKEA furniture.
That's right. It's their hobby. Yeah. She can't see anything, so she makes it, and then she sits down. It just falls apart. Which is much good.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Is that you with the bit DIY, Pete?
Pretty much. But I don't have any excuses at all.
You're not blind.
I'm not blind. I'm just incompetent.
Okay. That's fair enough. It's good of you to acknowledge that.
If everyone was practical, there wouldn't be anything for the practical people to do.
So when something needs fixing in your house, does your wife say, "Get a real man in," or a proper man?
Yeah, she does it herself. And I'm about the ideas. I'll have the idea of maybe what piece of furniture we should get.
Right.
And then that's me done, pretty much.
Okay. You make the tea while she builds it.
There has been. I fell asleep once while she was painting our bedroom. That's not good.
And it wasn't the paint fumes. It was just you asleep.
It was just. We've all got our place in the world. Mine is not doing practical things around the house.
The queue.
Yes,
Anyway. We should say that Francis knows who's after him, knows that he's alive. He manages to escape. In order to get any leverage on Wade, he goes after the one thing that he still cares about, which is his girlfriend, Vanessa.
Yep.
And he tries to talk to her at the strip club and he loses his bottle, and then he's just about to go and talk to her again, but Francis gets there ahead of him with Angel, and they kidnap her.
They do. Again, that's quite nicely done as well, because you do kind of... I'd forgotten it wasn't him, because he's there looking for her.
Yeah.
And asks for her. She goes in the alleyway, and like us, she assumes it is him, and then it's not.
Yes, it's naughty Francis.
Mm-hmm.
Why Ajax? I don't know. Not really sure. Anyway.
No. I thought they might at some point explain that, but no.
I think he said it's like a name off a bleach bottle or something.
That makes sense.
That's what Wade Wilson says about it, but anyway. So we know that Francis has his girlfriend, but how does he work out where she is? I can't remember that.
I'm not. I genuinely... all I put here is he takes Vanessa to a place.
Did you know what the building is? Notice what it was.
No.
So it's a massive, massive, massive structure that they fight on.
Yeah.
You didn't notice what it was?
No, I didn't.
How about a large flying vehicle from Captain America Winter Soldier 2?
Oh.
What would that be, Pete?
They've embarrassed me now because I'm going to forget. A shield.
Helicarrier.
Helicarrier, yeah.
It's a grounded helicarrier. Because if you look at it, it's
were they allowed to use
tall.
Were they allowed to use helicarriers prior to the recent purchase?
Well, yeah, they just didn't say what it was.
Okay,
and it just kind of it looked like just a sort of ship. You'd call it a normal, carrier, but it wasn't because it was on land with giant propellers.
Weren't they using her to to draw him out anyway.
Yes.
So didn't they? So he knew where he was because they told him, didn't they?
Oh, he sent him a message. That's right. He sent him a tweet. He texted him and put a skull symbol and then a poo. And he goes, "What's that?" He goes, "That's a poo emoji." He goes, "Oh, I thought," his mate says, "Oh, I thought that was like a smiling bagel or something." She says, "So I kept posting it to people and then realised." It's just like the little moments they just take for jokes like that. You're like, what's that?
Yeah.
It's, oh, God. Yeah, so he tells him where he is, and it's a grounded helicarrier graveyard sort of thing.
Which is good. That makes sense.
Yeah.
And so now, despite the fact he doesn't want to be an X-Man, he still needs to call on some friends to help him.
Yes. So he goes to get Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead to help him fight these two numpties.
Yeah. And that, I guess, is the point where the two timelines have kind of met up, because we've now seen how they're together. Well, actually, no, it's already happened, hasn't it? Because we've gone past the bridge sequence. Take it back. But I love the slow-mo walk-up.
Yes.
The three of them do. And it leads up to the superhero landing gag.
Yes, and he goes, "Oh, she's going to do it. She's going to do it." Hey! They applaud her when she lands.
And there's a great fight. The fight between Angel Dust and two X-Men is amazing.
Yes, because she's mostly one-on-one with Colossus. Negasonic Teenage Warhead is helping out. She does a couple of really cracking things. Like, she blasts a bus and squishes a couple of the guards into them. She helps Deadpool a couple of times, once to get up to the very top of the helicarrier. And then later on she throws something and it just sort of helps him as well. So she does some cool things, but mostly it's him versus they called him Ajax there. Him versus Francis and Warlord Colossus versus Angel. But yes, and they have a massive, massive fight.
A henchman has his head kicked off.
Yeah, because he's forgotten his guns, he does it with two swords instead.
Yeah.
And he keeps saying, "What's my name?" And he spells out his name in dead bodies.
Yeah.
So that when he peers down from the top of the helicarrier, it says Francis.
But I think one of the notes I put here that you can tell it's going to be the end fight soon. It's building up to Deadpool versus Francis, the big kind of square off, and they're basically suffocating Vanessa the same way they tortured him, which feels unnecessary to me. But I put it's like it's one of the best, I think, if not the best one-on-one superhero fight I think I've ever seen, because you do feel, even though it's in this comedy wrapper, you buy every punch, you buy every kick, every moment of pain. When they use weapons on each other, you do really feel it. So I actually think the fight choreography and stuff is but again, they couldn't get away with all the jokes if it didn't pay off.
No,
I don't think. But again, even the music use in the fights is great as well.
And then there's a weird moment where basically Francis stabs him in the head with a knife. Yeah. And so essentially, because it's caused brain damage, he starts seeing things and hallucinating. And you get a cartoon running across the thing, and he's waving, and it just goes all really weird and floopy and just totally bizarre until he pulls the knife out and his brain heals. So it's absolutely batshit crazy. Even in the midst of the fight, you get this weird kind of like 30 seconds of random chaos, which I think is the whole film is like a massive organised chaos that somehow works.
Yeah.
They must have. I know they write scripts fairly quickly, but this one they must have revised so many times to get it just right.
It's worth looking at the two writers. So one of them is a guy called Rhett Reese, which is very hard to say. Wrote Zombieland.
Yes.
But also wrote G.I. Joe Retaliation.
Okay. And
is working on the sequel for Deadpool.
Okay.
And the other writer is called Paul Wernick. He's slightly easy to say. Deadpool, Zombieland, and G.I. Joe Retaliation. I have the feeling they're a writing partnership. He's also working on Cowboy Ninja Viking currently.
Okay. So comedy action seems to be their forte.
Yeah.
If you assume that G.I. Joe is a comedy film.
Well, yeah, intentional, otherwise non-intentional. But the director, this was his first film. He's VFX artist and animator.
Right.
He was the second unit director on Thor: The Dark World. Mm-hmm. And that, but if you know what he's doing next,
Go on.
The untitled Terminator reboot.
Right. Okay.
Written by James Cameron.
Yes, I'm actually looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Given that he said he's just going to ignore everything after Terminator 2 and do a new trilogy.
Which sounds sensible.
With Arnie and Linda Hamilton back. So what more can you ask for?
But the director here isn't back for the sequels, is he? Is for the sequel. It's isn't it the John Wick guys? Or one of the John Wick guys that's doing the second Deadpool movie?
I'm not sure.
I'm going to look that up.
You do that. Whilst you do that, I will say that this film ends, as you said, with the big fight. It's directed. The second one's going to be David Leitch.
Yeah, who is John Wick and Atomic Blonde director.
I've not seen Atomic Blonde.
No,
really should at some point.
Should.
Given that one, it's an action film, and two, it's based on a comic by our good friend and close personal friend
Anthony Johnston.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, if only we did a program about action movies and give us an excuse to talk about it.
Yeah. So the film ends where they have the massive fight. He defeats Francis. He's got him pinned to the floor, and Colossus then tries to appeal to him to get him to not kill him and to become an X-Man. And it only takes a few moments, and he's whittling on.
Is the perfect Marvel movie speech that you'd get, which makes you kind of clutch your chest, and it's all very earnest. Mm-hmm. But the reaction's not quite the same here.
Yeah, Deadpool shoots him in the head and goes, "Well, you were going on a bit, and yeah, come on, it's just that's not me, not today. Maybe another day, but not today." Yeah, so he kills Francis and shoots him in the head, which I think is fair, given what he did to him.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and what he did to the one he loved.
Yeah, and he goes, heal that. And I love the bit where he takes off the mask. Vanessa gets to see his face, and then under the mask is a paper mask of Hugh Jackman stapled to his face. He goes, "Okay, under that mask," which is brilliant.
And then she starts giving him grief about his face as well. Mm-hmm. Which again is beautifully that's how their relationship works.
It dovetails
from beginning
back
to end.
That thing of where they're trying to outdo what their childhoods were, and now they're outdoing the period they had apart and how awful it was. And here again, music plays a very, very important, brilliant bit, because you get a brilliant callback.
You do.
Do you remember this?
Angel in the Morning again.
No. It's George Michael, Andrew Ridgeley.
Oh,
Wham,
yes.
Because it's not,
it is.
Wham, it's when they earned the exclamation point. It's Wham! And he says he'll play that at
I'd
one
forgotten
point.
that.
And he does. He holds up the phone and plays it.
Yeah, I'd forgotten that.
Mm-hmm. It's brilliant. It's not Wham, it's Wham! Oh, God. There again, fifth time around, I just laughed. I laughed and laughed and laughed. Because there's too much for you to memorize everything.
Yeah.
And you can just still soak it up and just find things to chuckle at, or the fact that he knew one of the guys that he was fighting against.
Oh, yeah.
And he just goes, "Oh, how are you doing? How are the kids?" Yeah. Actually, he doesn't kill him. I think he just kind of knocks him out and then uses him to spell out Francis in the bodies, but he hasn't actually killed him. So, and he's like, "Oh, it's funny how things turn out." Yeah. And just punches him. So, just things like that you miss the first time around. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I agree. God, we've rowed through that.
Yeah.
I think it's that kind of film, though.
Yeah. We have missed a ton of stuff. We've missed things like when he's killed the guys at the beginning on the road, and he goes, "Oh, these were all just here when I got there," and the bloke falls off the sign that's been splattered into it. He goes, "Yeah, him too. He was there before."
And when he gets shot in the ass.
Yes.
Because he was Rear of the Year, wasn't he, Ryan Reynolds, I think?
Yeah.
So even that, well, everything's a joke. But
everything. Everything.
Yeah.
Oh. Unbelievable film, and just absolutely insane, and so much fun to watch.
Yes.
Right.
I concur.
Shall we do some scores?
Yes, let's.
You're a funny guy. Enough with the yak. What is your score?
I'm ready to go first, Pete.
Okay, well, as it was your choice,
I think that's fair.
Feel free.
Okay. There are so many jokes in this film. All the ones we've talked about, and there's lots of other ones we have not touched on that I'd pick up the next time around, I'm sure. Basil Fawlty. Just the stuff with Dopinder and Bantu, who's his rival, like, fighting for this woman, the love story. This, it's basically, as you said, at its core, it's a very simple revenge story on this guy for what he's promised, and it doesn't turn out to be that. The thing where he says he's going to cure him, and you find right out at the end of the film that there is no cure. And that was like the final nail in the coffin that probably made him sure that he was going to kill Francis and not save him. The action is brilliant. The music is brilliant. The callbacks in both things, in scenes, and the music they use over and over. It progresses really well. It does jump around, and it does break the fourth wall lots of times, but that didn't bother me in this film. In other films, it probably annoyed the crap out of me. But everything seems to work. There's nothing that made me go, oh, I didn't like that bit, or no, that was a bit too much. The whole film is over the top. If you don't like the film in the first 5 minutes, you're not going to like the rest of it. You may as well turn it off. And I just thought it was cracking from start to finish. So there's nothing that I can fault it for. So therefore, I'm going to have to give it 5 bags.
Nice. I've added a bag while talking about this film, which has happened before. So, yeah, a very straight-up plot, but done in such a clever way that it holds your interest from beginning to end. I think the characterization was impeccable. Like I say, I think in terms of everyone was perfectly cast. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't laughed at a film this much from start to end, possibly ever. Even comedies, out-and-out comedies.
It's true, because they're not every single minute there's a joke, whereas this, there is.
But equally, because sometimes jokes can get in the way of a story or of a... What I really like about it is you pick it apart and you go, it is hilariously funny, but it does still tell a full story, and you do still go through an emotional journey with a character. That's very, very, very hard to do.
Yeah.
Again, Ryan Reynolds was never... This is a career-defining role for him, I think. And yeah, it's a superhero movie linked to shared universes, which you wouldn't think would be an out-and-out action film, but actually, it's funnier, and it's probably got better action than most of the action comedies we absolutely loved from back in the day, which is the reason I am also going to give it 5 bags.
Wow. You know
because
what?
I can't imagine not wanting to sit and watch it again at any point.
Yeah.
Which is the test, really.
I was going to say that he's... As you said, he's probably never been funnier in a film that I've ever seen before.
Not even The Holiday. He's not in The Holiday. The Proposal.
He's no. Anyway, I'm just ignore that. But I know he has done a lot of comedy in the past, because he started on. I think the earliest I saw him was Two Guys and a Girl.
Okay.
With Nathan Fillion, and I can't remember the actress's name, but it's like a sitcom that they did for years. That was very, very good, and you can go back and watch it now and still enjoy it. But I've never really thought of him as a comedic actor, as it were, because I've seen him in lots of things, and he's done a bit of comedy, but this is straight out and out proved that he's got fantastic timing and he can make fun of himself. And I'm going to compare him to someone there again I never thought was that funny, and that's until I saw him in the right film, and that's Ryan Gosling.
Okay.
He's got incredible... If you watch him in The Nice Guys, he's so funny.
Yeah.
He's got incredible comedic timing, and everything he does in that is perfect. And there again, in this, Ryan Reynolds, it works so well. And yet they've both done serious roles that we've seen.
Yeah, I think it's that because years ago they used to always say that the best actors are comedians. If you're a really good comedian, like Robin Williams, if you're a really good comedian, when you come to acting, you're even better than. But I think maybe the same is in reverse with like Ryan Gosling. It's actually if you're a really good actor, you can still. Ryan Reynolds was also in the X-Files original series.
Really?
Playing Jay DeBoom.
I don't remember that.
Probably in an episode that I can't pronounce from 1996.
Okay. I'll take your word for it. Wow. So, yeah, we've both given it 5.
We have. Oof. That's not happened for a little while.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's your turn to choose the next film, I believe.
It is. Now, I'm picking a film which I like which I like to talk about. Basically an old favourite, one of those films that I mentioned a lot to people, and I mentioned it to some people this week, and they said, "Oh, you should do it on the show." And I was like, "Well, no, it's not really an action movie." But I looked on IMDb, right, and it says action, crime, horror. So, who am I to argue with the Internet Movie Database? So, people in it. One person you will know is Claudia Christian.
Yes, I do know her.
From Babylon 5 fame. You will also probably know Michael Nuri. Maybe you don't. Edo Ross.
Yes.
From Red Heat.
Of course.
And the lead character, who's played by Kyle MacLachlan.
Okay, I'm not sure what this film is.
Maybe you don't know this film. This is a film from 1987, so it's right in the sweet spot of our... I'll read you the short blurb. Law-abiding people suddenly become violent criminals. A cop and an FBI agent race for answers in this sci-fi thriller.
Okay. No, I don't know what it is.
It's called The Hidden.
The Hidden?
Yes.
Okay. So is it an action film, you say?
It's an action, crime, horror, sci-fi.
Right. Okay. How many times have you seen this?
Many. I used to own it on X-Rental VHS.
So this is one that you recommend quite a bit to people?
Yeah.
Okay. We're going back in time to that.
Directed by Jack Shoulder, who also directed... Oh God, nothing.
Addressing an episode of Tremors, the TV series. There you go.
Wishmaster 2, an episode of the Mortal Kombat.
Hang on. Oh, it's a TV movie, The Omen.
The episode of the Mortal Kombat TV series. The film Renegades, starring Lou Diamond Phillips and Kiefer Sutherland. See, maybe we do a Jack Shoulder triple bill, and he also did Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Freddy's Revenge.
Tell you about the time I met someone who'd worked on Renegades.
No.
Embarrassing story, but hey, when I went to a convention years ago, I met good personal friend of the show, Robert Nepper, who people will know from things like Prison Break.
Yes. I've worked on a film with Robert Nepper.
Okay. Most recently, he's been on Twin Peaks and The Orville, and he's been on iZombie and all sorts of things. So I went to this convention, I was chatting to him and all the rest of it, and you can go and get something signed. And I went up with my Renegades DVD cover of the copy that I own. And an hour before the signing, he talked about how he worked on this film, and it was awful. And when we were kids, and we didn't know what we were doing. And the film was Renegades. So all these people are signing photos for him to sign, and I get up there and I just sort of slide the DVD cover across the table, hoping he won't notice. And he looks up at me and goes, "Oh, do you like Renegades then?"
Nicely done.
Well, yeah. I said, well, I was a young man. I was suddenly backtracking. I was a young man, and I liked it. And he goes, well, everyone, likes some films.
I kicked myself. I was at a convention where Lance Henriksen was there.
Yep.
And I assumed because he was doing paid signatures and stuff that I couldn't go and speak to him. But then loads of people I know went over and just chatted to him, and I wish I had, because I was either going to get my trusty Hard Target poster signed or my copy of Stone Cold. Whereas most people would be going to see him about some of his maybe
alien stuff or Western things he's done.
Or Millennium even. But I would have been going to see him about those two films. Definitely.
I got a photo with him at a show. And for once, look who's with me, because the camera broke when I was having the photo with him.
Oh, dear.
It's always like, oh, hang on, we got to fix something. So I'm stood there, and I just stood and talked to him for 5 minutes.
Oh, nice.
So that was wicked. That makes up for the slight embarrassment of Rob Nepper and me telling him that I really liked Renegades. It's an interesting film. Anyway, so Jack Shoulder
yes, this film, which is a beautiful tangent. We did the shortest show ever that then runs over because we did The Hidden. So I assume from your reaction, you've never seen it.
Never seen it, never heard of it, know nothing about it other than what you've just told me.
The writer also wrote Rush Hour and National Treasure and the series Grimm.
Wow. Okay.
He created the series Grimm.
Yeah.
Although he wrote this film under a pseudonym.
Well, that's probably fair enough, I think.
You haven't even seen it yet. Don't judge my film when you haven't even seen it yet.
I know, I'm getting the digs in early. I'll probably like it. Who knows?
We'll see. I saw it when it came out on video with my dad.
Wow.
In 1987. So I was too young to watch this film. I was 13 watching in 18.
Not good.
But I don't think you can arrest me now.
Statute of limitation of watching a film when you're young, it's probably gone. Yeah.
Well, it was up for Saturn Awards. Yeah. Best science fiction film, best actor, best director. So let's not sniff.
No, let's not. Let's not. Going back to the original film that we just watched, Deadpool. Have you seen it?
Yes.
Have you
seen it?
Did you not like it? And if so, tell us why, and we'll tell you you're wrong. But tell us anyway. So get in touch with us. Come onto the Facebook group. Email us, bagsofaction@gmail.com. You can follow us on Twitter @bagsofaction. And you can support this show and all of the other shows on the Geek Syndicate network by going to geeksyndicate.co.uk or going to patreon.com/Geek Syndicate.
Yes, and you enjoy Christmas with your families. And don't forget to get them all together to watch The Hidden, ready for our January episode.
Yes, they'll say, should we put the film on over Christmas? Yeah.
Well,
it's a great film called The Hidden. What's that about? You love it, Gran. It's great. It's got
Gran,
horror.
It was nominated for 3 Saturn Awards. Sit back down.
Come back, Gran. You're not having a heart attack. Stop lying.
It'll be fine.
Have a happy Christmas, everyone.
Yes, thank you for listening, if indeed you still are.
Good night.
Good night.
You have been listening to Bags of Action. No bullshit. You'd better stick around for the next episode, because if you're lying, I'll be back.